back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are talking about my 2023 plans and intentions. I did a video like this last year, which I really liked, that it's not really a goals video because I'm not really a goals kind of person, but it's talking about what are my plans or intentions, things that I'm thinking about for the next year. This video is going to be a little bit of a reflection on last year's plans and intentions and then planning next year, so my 2022 and looking into 2023, because honestly they're gonna be kind of similar, because I want to either continue on with a lot of the things that I had wanted to do in 2022, or things that I wanted to do and didn't do in 2022 we're rolling over to 2023. So it's gonna be a lot of the same things, but let's just get into it. Okay, so first up, we have one or two things that are more like specific goals, I guess, because talking about my Goodreads reading goal, how many books am I planning to read in the next year? Usually I set this goal at 50 books. I'm gonna just kind of keep to that standard. It's not a new or exciting thing. I usually read between 80 and 100 books every year. I knew that this year I might read a little bit less, and I'm thinking that I'm probably gonna come in just under 80 books this year. I haven't finished my reading for the year, but I don't think I'm gonna quite reach 80, but that's about what I was anticipating, just because I was very busy at work this year. I'm gonna assume essentially the same for next year. I have kind of been on a roll recently with reading, so I'm gonna hopefully get some good reading done at the beginning of the year. I always have some kind of slump in the middle of the year around like June, July, August time. But I am thinking that I'm just going to set my goal to 50 and anticipate that I'm going to read 80 to 100, but probably closer to the 80 range. I'm not going to try and like push myself to 100 books. However, I would like to try and keep my focus on reading this year. Like I always kind of balance between, like many people, you know, wanting to read more, and I really enjoy reading lots of books, but also not wanting to like take the fun out of it by trying to force yourself to read. So I want to definitely prioritize reading and try and read more, because I know that months when I only read like 4 books in a month, which like there's nothing wrong with that, but for me it just felt kind of like, oh, every time that happened I was like, oh, I wish I had read more that month, you know, and it would have been fun if I had read more. So I'm gonna try and, you know, not push for a specific number, but try and really make sure I am making time to focus on reading. The other kind of numbers goal thing that I have is around book buying. For 2022, I had said that I wanted to buy fewer than 80 books, which I definitely did. I bought about 56 physical books, not counting graphic novels, nonfiction, or poetry. I don't really track those. I really only am tracking like fiction novels, because those are the things that I tend to overbuy and then they sit on my shelf forever. So I bought about 56, and so this year I want to try and be a little more stringent, I guess, and say buy fewer than 50 books, because I think I can do it. Like this year I bought 56. I think that I could definitely do under 50 if I was like really intentionally doing that, because I want to be much more selective about the books that I am buying and bringing in, and really focus on things that I think I am going to read and things that I think I'm going to read soon. I don't like having a super large TBR shelf, and so I would like to try and focus on buying books that I'm planning to read in the near future, not just things that I'm like, oh, maybe I'll read this in a year or two, but I'm gonna buy it now. Of course it'll still happen, but the goal is to kind of be more selective and try and focus on things I will be buying or I will be reading soon. Speaking of not having a large TBR shelf and not letting things sit on my shelf for too long, one of my new goals or plans for this year, I guess this is an actual goal. Yeah, this is sort of goals, plans, intentions, whatever it is we're calling it. But one of them is that I would like to get off of my shelf any books that I bought in 2020. So last year I made a big push to clear out my TBR shelf of anything that I had bought before 2020 so that I would know how long something has been on my shelf and so that things haven't been on there for too long. So I have now been tracking which year I buy each of my books. I have a spread in my reading journal about it, so I know which are my 2020 books. Those are the oldest books on my physical TBR. And so this year I want to make a push to get those off. I think I have about 12 of them, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Actually, if there's 12, that means I really could do like one a month. But I'm actually going to be doing a video later on about those 12 books from 2020 buying, and those are being the books that I want to get off of my shelf, whether I read them, DNF them, or just decide I'm no longer interested and let them go. So I'm really trying to manage my TBR shelf. One difference, I guess, between 2022 goals or plans and my 23 plans is that I'm not setting a specific goal around DNFing. For the last 2 years, I've specifically had DNF with abandon as a goal or plan, just really allowing myself to DNF anything that I wasn't feeling. And it's not that I'm saying I'm not planning to do that, but I feel like because that has been a focus of mine for the last 2 years, and I feel like I have done it very successfully, it has now become much more of a habit, and I don't need to set a specific goal around it. So it's something I'm still planning to do, but I'm not setting a like real intention or goal behind that, because I think that it worked in that it became much more of a habit, that I don't even have to hate something. I just have to not really be feeling it and be like, do I want to spend my time on this? No. So we DNF. And I think that that has made my reading this year pretty successful. So that's really good. One of the things that I want to do is really focus on the things that I want to read, which I know I've talked about before. I don't think I talked about in my 2022 plans about this specifically, but really just focusing on the books that I want to read, not the books I feel like I should be reading or I need to read for a specific reason or something, and letting myself completely just follow my bliss, you know, with my reading. It seems like that would be very obvious, but sometimes with my reading, I put off reading the books I'm most excited for, either because I feel like I should be reading something else for whatever reason, or because I'm afraid, what if I don't actually like this book? There's so many nonsensical reasons as to why I do it, but that's one of the things that I tried to really do in 2022 was to focus on the things that I really wanted to read, and I think it just worked out really well because I had a pretty good reading year. So I want to really make sure that that is a priority in 2023 as well. Now, something that I am just kind of rolling over from this year into next year for my plans is around genres and like reading different genres. Because I had set some plans for 2022 and didn't really do them. So I had some genres that I wanted to really dive into, and I don't feel like I really did. Mostly they're historical fiction, science fiction, and then this year I'm adding nonfiction also because I feel like I haven't been reading very much nonfiction. But I read a few historical fictions this year, but not nearly as much as I would have liked to feel like I was really living into that intention and really exploring the genre. So I would like to lean into that more and definitely read more historical fiction. I really didn't read science fiction this year. I read very few. And so I want to definitely make a point of reading more sci-fi in 2023. I already have some plans around that. I'm planning to do a couple of vlogs probably that are around reading sci-fi books and kind of figuring out what is it that I like in sci-fi, because I think that's one of the things that keeps me from reading it, is that I'm not sure what it is that I like in sci-fi. And if I can figure out what tropes or subgenres or whatever it is, then I think that I would read more of it. So I'm gonna do a couple of like exploratory vlogs for sci-fi as a genre, which I think will be really interesting, at least for me. I'm excited about it. And then nonfiction, I just want to read more of it. I just feel like I haven't been reading much. I have a bunch of nonfiction on my shelves, and I want to get even more, actually. I want to focus on like psychology nonfiction, mostly like social science kind of nonfiction, and then some like nature nonfiction. Those are kind of my two areas of nonfiction that I tend to like. So I have two more things about my reading for 2023. The first is that I want to put an emphasis on rereading books. I kind of unintentionally did that this year, because I think I reread like 13 books or something this year, which for me is quite a lot since I've joined BookTube. Prior to BookTube, I reread books all of the time, and I loved it. I love re-experiencing a book and visiting those characters in that world again, and just getting to immerse myself in the world and the vibes. But since getting on BookTube, I haven't been rereading as much, mostly because I think I just know about so many more books now that I feel like there are so many books to read, I can't possibly reread things, you know? But this year I reread what I feel like is a good number of books for me. I've reread like 13-ish books, which, as I said, more than I normally do since joining BookTube. And so I really want to continue on doing that because it was great. I loved rereading stuff. And I think that I just like forgot how much I enjoy it, and I really like leaned into it this year and had a great time. The other thing that I want to put an emphasis on is reading series, and this is something that I also meant to do in 2022, and then like I kind of did it but kind of not, and I want to make a more concerted effort to just binge through series, at least the ones that I am able to. I do read a decent amount of backlist books, so a lot of them, all of the series is out, so I want to make an effort to really just binge a series, which I also think will help managing my book buying if I focus my book buying on buying books in a series that I am actively reading instead of just buying like a million first books in series. All right, so those are all of my reading related like plans. Then I have a couple of things that are channel related. So a lot of this is rolling over from the previous year also. So in terms of video posting, I'm always trying to be more consistent. I shoot for 2 videos a week, 1 video minimum, especially 1 video like over the summer, because in the summer I do tend to have a slump in both my reading and content production. So just going into it knowing that that's going to be kind of my rhythm. This year I did okay at it, but I definitely had a couple of times where I would post really consistently for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I would just have nothing for 1 or 2 weeks and then start posting again. So I've been relatively consistent, but my goal is to do 1 to 2 videos a week. Some of my goals for 2022 were also to post more recommendation videos and to do more vlogs, and I do feel like I did those this year, which is exciting. I posted, actually I don't know how many recommendation videos. It might have been like 4 or so, which isn't a huge amount, but considering that I've been trying to get myself to post recommendations for years and just like never doing it, that is a huge improvement for me. So I would love to continue doing that, and I have a couple of plans for different recommendations that I want to do in 2023. And it's one of those things that I think that once I started doing it, it just became easier. For some reason it felt very difficult to start. I don't know why, but now that I've done a few, I feel much more like, oh, I have ideas for recommendations, and it just feels much easier. I also think that the fact that I've been having a pretty positive reading year helps with being able to give recommendations and feeling like I have books to talk about other than the like 2 to 3 that I feel like I had been talking about for years. So want to do more recommendation videos, also want to do more vlogs. I think Instead, I already have some plans for, like, I want to do some sci-fi, like genre exploration vlogs. I want to do more of my vlogs that are about, like, do I like this author? I have a couple of authors in mind already. So I've got a couple of things planned. So I definitely want to do vlogs. I think at most I would probably do like one vlog a month. Because that seems doable for me. I don't know if I'm even going to do precisely one a month, but that would be kind of my maximum. All right, so those are all of my plans, intentions, and a couple of goals sprinkled in for 2023. I would love to know, what are some of your plans, goals, intentions, whatever you'd like to share in the comments. I will be doing a reading and review as well, which will be looking more at my statistics for my reading for the year. But I have a lot of stuff planned. I have a lot of stuff planned for January that's coming up, kind of wrapping up the year. But as I said, would love to hear about some of your plans and thoughts for next year. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!